Hello, welcome to Design with Cracker. In a previous tutorial, we took a look at how to create this beautiful tabs element from the Facebook community page. So we were able to replicate this, and if you have not seen that tutorial, please check the channel and you will see how we were able to create this. Now today we're going to take a look at how to make this tab responsive. So if I hit F12 and I try to reduce the screen size, you can see things really start getting bad here. Okay, so you can see it doesn't really look good. So maybe if I switch to like iPad, you see it doesn't look really good on the portrait. The landscape looks okay. If I go to the phone, everything just breaks. So we're going to take a look at how to make the tabs element responsive in Oxygen Builder. So I already have these tab elements that we designed open in Oxygen Builder, and we are going to take a look at how to make this responsive. So if you go to your breakpoint, you can see we have this breakpoint. It looks okay. At this breakpoint, it begins to fall apart. So we're going to start editing from this breakpoint. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is, let me pull up the structure panel, and we're going to take a look at this. Now while we were building this, there's something that we left out, and that was to center these background images. So let's go back to the original initial breakpoint, and I'm going to target the right div that contains the content. All right, so tab content. So we have a background image set to cover. So what I'm going to do is to set the left and the top background position to 50% and 50%. Okay, so I'm going to do that for all of them. Okay, so as you can see, all of them are now at the center. You may not really notice the difference here, but when we start going to the smaller breakpoint, it becomes obvious. Like we saw, this was not at the center when we were looking at it earlier, so that is what we missed the other time. So unless at a breakpoint of less than 992 pixels, these images begin, they really begin to get squashed. So what I'm going to do is, I think what I would like to do is let's check the sizing and spacing. So I'm going to check, what do we have there? We had 50 pixels. Okay, so and we had, I think we had some margins. Okay, yeah, we had some. Okay, we didn't have a margin there. Let's see, the wrapper div 25 and all that. Okay, so let's check this. So at 992 pixels, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this. Okay, and we have a lot of space here that we are not utilizing. So let me check what that space is about. So I'm gonna go to the initial breakpoint. Now when you're working with you want to do a responsive editing, like you want to make it compatible with mobile, you'll have to be switching back and forth to check your previous settings. So I'm gonna come here. So we have a lot of padding here. So if I go to 992, I could bring down that padding. Okay, so let's go back and see, we have like 50 pixels padding. So coming down here, I don't want it to be 50. I'll make it 32 and then 32 here. So by doing that, we already get back our our image coming back to shape. And I'm going to select the tabs person image. Okay, and then I want to move it away a little bit. So let's go back to the original. So we see we had quite some space here, and that space was because we had this div called image. Okay, and this div was 25%, and that was way bigger than the actual image. That's why we had this space. So now here we need to have additional space. Okay, so now these are the two divs. Okay, we have the image and we have the div and we have the person. Okay, so we're having some space here also, and that space is as a result of you know, the padding here on the tabs, you know, on the class. Yeah, this tabs class. So I'm going to go into the spacing and then switch back to the original and check for whatever, you know, is responsible for that. Okay, so I'm not seeing anything, nothing. Okay, so that means it probably is a default padding. So I'm going to switch back to the 992 pixels, and I'm still seeing something like that. So let's try first of all to give it padding of 0. Okay, so giving it a padding of 0, you know, remove that padding from here, so we have that, you know, space. So now I'm going to select this, okay, and then I'm going to give it, that's the image wrapper. I'm going to give it, it's a class, so we're working with classes because whatever changes we apply to the class affects everything. So I'm going to go to size and spacing. I want to give it maybe an 8 pixel margin to separate the image from the text. So 8 pixel to the right. Okay, so that looks okay. All right, so I think from here, I mean, we could say maybe we are okay here. So at this breakpoint we are fine. Okay, so let's move to the next. Let's save this first, and then we'll move to the next breakpoint. And here things really doesn't look very good. So what I think I'm going to do here is let's see, what can we do here? So for this, let's see, this is the right div, this is the left div. So this is our main div, that is the parent of these two divs. Okay, so I'm gonna select this and stack the elements vertically. Okay, at this breakpoint I want them to be stacked vertically, but let me undo that. But let's check this website, you know, let's refresh on the front end, because sometimes it may seem that this is very, you know, small space for this to enter, but then in actual sense it is big enough for you to have it stacking, you know, horizontally instead of vertically. So let's check that. That's 768. Let's go 768. All right, so you can see at 768 it looks really okay, and that is the width of an iPad. Okay, 768 is the width of an iPad in portrait. So let's go to iPad portrait. So you can see that it still looks fine at 768, even though in the builder it does not look good. So you may be tempted to stack it, you know, vertically at this breakpoint, because, you know, from what you see in the builder it looks like you know, it's not looking good. But sometimes if you come here to check, you're going to find out that it looks really okay. So that is what I do. You know, the builder doesn't display, you know, these things exactly the way it is on the front end. So it's always good to check the front end, you know, to be able to determine if you're supposed to make the changes that you have in mind. So that is one tip I have found out. So at this breakpoint 768, we're going to let it remain like this. So let's check the next breakpoint, which is 480. Now that 480 is where you have your phones. Okay, so this is a very small phone, iPhone 5, maybe iPhone X is 370 something, maybe iPhone 6 Plus. So you can see that at this breakpoint you have, you know, it's really small, so it probably doesn't make sense for it to stack you know, horizontally. Let's look at the smallest screen size here, probably this iPhone 5. Okay, so you can see it really doesn't look good. So from here we're going to start stacking it vertically, and then when you start, you have to keep in mind all the changes you made. Okay, so you always have to go back to size and spacing, because most of the changes, you know, are going to be on the size and spacing. So this left div, if you go to the original size and spacing, you can see that we made it a width of 40. So when you come back to 480 pixels, we're going to have to return that to 100, or you just set it to auto. Okay, now what's the difference between auto and setting it to 100%? For instance, if we set it to 100%, it's still gonna be, it's still gonna fill it in. Okay, I think the only difference is that if we had maybe say like a margin here, perhaps the 100% will force this to be a full width, of take up 100% of the parent, but auto will just take up the remaining space. So if there was something else, so that's that looks okay. And the next one is this. Okay, that doesn't have a class. We're going to set it also to auto, so you can see. But that doesn't look okay. This is not how we want our div to be, So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the parent div. I want to move this. I want to swap this. Okay, I want this to go to the top while this remains at the bottom. So I'm going to go to advanced layout, and then I'm going to reverse. Okay, so we have that in reverse. Okay, now we have all this. It's just a long list of the names here. So, and to me, it doesn't really look okay. It doesn't really look fine because we have all this, So if we save this and take a look at the front end, let's refresh this as the smallest screen size that we have here. So you see, so you have to scroll all the way up here to click, and then you have to scroll all the way back to see. So it's not a good user experience. So we have to find a way to solve that, and this text also is really big. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select that tab content, this, okay, and let's go back to size and spacing, to the regional, and the height that we said was 100% of the right div. So let's see, what is the height of the right div? Okay, we didn't have any height set, but at 40 at 480 pixel, we want to set a minimum height. So I'm going to set a minimum height of say 400 pixels. Okay, so this is how long I want my my tab content to be. So I'm going to come here, and then I'm going to set my size and spacing. Let's check what we had in the original. So we had a height of 100%. So Y is our content. So it is actually growing. So the tabs. So now let's go to the tabs. We check on the class. Okay, so I'm gonna go to the regional and see what we did here. We have a height of 100. So why is it not filling up? Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go there and set the height to auto. It's not working. 100%. Let's try this. So none of that is working. So all right, so what do we have here? So we have set this minimum height, and then this is the next one. So yeah, height is supposed to be 100%. Okay, how about layout? It's not working. Let's check this layout. Flex grow 1, and then this. Set this to vertical. All right, so okay, I think I should back up and explain what I did there. So I'm just gonna back up. Okay, I'm just gonna back up. All right, so so we've set that to be okay, so a minimum height of 400 pixel. So now if we take a look at this one, so this is not covering up for some reason. It's not coming all the way down. So if we go to the regional, we see that we had a height of 100, so it should push down, but it's not. And for this one, we also had a height of 100. So at this breakpoint, it is not stretching all the way down. So what we're going to do is to first of all select the tab content. Okay, let's select the right div first and just set this to stack vertically. Okay, so by doing that, we actually set it to display flex. And then for this one, we're gonna go we're gonna also do the same thing, okay, so that it can display as flex. Now the reason we're doing that is because we need this property to be active, the flexbox child control. So I'm gonna set flex grow to 1, so you can see it moved. And then I'm gonna select the tab content. Now this is the tab contents plural, and then this is the tab contents, a class that controls all this. So I'm gonna go layout and also do the same thing, flex grow to 1, so we have that field in. Now I'm going to select this text. This text is a class, and I want to reduce the font size. So let's check the original font size is 20. So going to that breakpoint, I think I would like to start at this breakpoint to take the font size down to 16. Okay, so that this inherits that, so that looks okay. Okay, so this is going to be one of the challenges we're going to have to, all right, trying to solve this problem of having this long stuff. So let's get right to it. So I'm going to select this the left div. Okay, so we're going to set this these tabs, okay, the parent wrapper for all the tabs. We're going to set it to stack horizontally, but we're gonna use the ID. Okay, now we go to the original, so we set it to stack vertically, on the the general all devices. So you want to be sure that you're making that changes to the ID, not the class. So it's very important to take note of the changes you made. That's why I said the changes you made here is the key. So for instance, if we go here and then we change on the class, you see nothing is going to happen. Okay, nothing is going to happen. So this could be a cause of frustration if you're not careful. So you want to go to the ID and stack it horizontally. Now, so what I'm going to do is, so I want to set these tabs to display at 50% width. And so you see everything is here. I'm going to go back to the parent, and then I'll click allow multi-line. Okay, so that once it fills in the 50%, it continues on the next line. So the next thing I'm going to do is to select the tab itself. Okay, and then I want to stack this. I want to stack this vertically. Okay, so that is to stack. Okay, so that's not working because I'm doing the wrong thing here. So I need to stack from this, the person. Okay, so it will stack the image and this group. Okay, so you have the person, is the parent to these two elements, these two groups. Okay, so I'm going to select that, and then I'm going to stack it. All right, so we can see that is sort of working. Now, one thing I had in mind, now the problem that we might be faced with is having this here, and then when we're supposed to have it at the top. Okay, so what I thought was this. Now what if we, at this view, at this breakpoint, we disable this and then have another one at the top. Okay, so we could have, let's say on the right, so what we call the right div. Okay, if I duplicate this and then open the right div and just move it at the top. Okay, so we have that, and we could just style, so we could just style it, have this margin, let's say 8 or 16 pixel margin there, 16 here, and then we bring down our margin bottom. Okay, so we have that. Now so let's see, so we have that there, and then at this breakpoint we decide that this headline is not going to show, so we go to display none. All right, and then we have to go back to all devices and then make sure that we select this and then go to layout and display none here. So if we go to this breakpoint, the last one, we are going to enable that one. Okay, so enable this one. So you see, we have these this here and here, but then here we have this. Now something like this, it's it can be tricky, especially when you're making changes to the website. So sometimes it's good to use dynamic data to populate something like this, so that if you make the change, you make the changes in one place, okay, all the changes will take effect everywhere you have that dynamic data. So for instance, if we had a custom field and that we use in inserting that data, so when we duplicate this, anytime we make a change to that dynamic field, we're gonna have that change apply anyway this text is. So this one of the drawbacks is if you're not using dynamic data, you probably would make changes on the desktop version and then forget that you had a different text, different text elements, here. So so that's just the drawback of this. Okay, all right, so for these ones, so what I'm going to do is, let's select this, and then I want to make the width auto, okay, because remember, here we made the width 25%, so, and here we didn't change the width, okay, so that 25% was still active, so that's why we made it auto. Okay, then I want to let's go to size and spacing. If you go to the original, we see we had a 32 pixel padding at the bottom, so let's go there. So we still have that padding active, so I'm just going to take it to like 8. Okay, all right, now we still have, so we've reduced that a little bit. We still have a lot of it, okay, and I think what I could do at this point is to reduce these typefaces. Okay, so I'm gonna select this. Let's check what font type did we use. This was 14, so I'm gonna go here and just make it say 10, and then I'm gonna make this 10 also. Okay, and I think we have this justify text, so I'm just gonna text align to left. Okay, and let's see, so that's good. All right, now I want to go to the image wrapper. Okay, the image wrapper, and just set a margin bottom of say 8 pixels, just to push this down. All right, so we have that, and how does it look? So we can change this. So I still think we can, we still have enough space to play around. So with that left div, yeah, selected, I'm gonna go and just reduce the padding to 8 and 8, so we have that. Okay, so what if we make everything centralized here? So okay, so let's try this. So I'm gonna go to this parent for this and just set it to centralize. Okay, but we have already set our text to left align, so I will have to go and override that. Go to the text, okay, and then set it to centralize, so everything is centralized now. Okay, all right, so let's save it and see how it looks so far at the front end. All right, so we have, so you scroll in and then you have meet our community leaders, and then you click, but then we're still losing screen, because you still have to come all the way up here before you scroll down. So I want a situation where you can actually have everything in the screen, at least up to this point. I mean, this looks like that could work, but what if we could have all these icons line up? Now I'm trying to do something like, what if we have all this, like all these pictures line up under here, and then we have this section a little bit longer. I think as a matter of fact we have to reduce this this text. Okay, so we have all this line up, and then we have the names written inside here as you click on the icons or on the pictures. So let's do it like that. So I mean, if you're okay with this, I guess you could just stick with this, but I want to push it further. So first of all, I'm going to reduce this text. So originally this text was 20, so I'm just going to move it to 16. Okay, so we can have enough space. And then for this right div, we had a minimum height of 400, which is okay, but I'm going to move it to 500. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is for this name and position. Okay, so I'm gonna just I think I'm gonna duplicate that. Okay, so I'm gonna duplicate that and then I'll move it here. Alright, so I have that here. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna change the text to white. So I'm selecting this parent, the parent wrapper. So I'm just gonna change the text color to white, and it didn't affect this one because this one had a class, that defined the text color. So I think I'm going to just change that from the class to white. Okay, so and also of course I'm gonna stack it like this. All right, what else can I do? I can just reduce that padding a little bit. Let's just go in and make it 16. Okay, and the text can be like 12. Okay, so yeah, so it doesn't matter because we are taking this off. So I'm gonna take that let's go here. Okay, so I think there's a problem here right now. So we're having this text becoming white because we right here what I did was I used the class to change. So I'm going to remove that. Okay, so let's keep looking at it from here. So it has a class position, so I'm just going to say give it another class position mobile. Okay, and then just give it a text of white. Okay, so that still retains the color of this one. All right, and then for this let me remove that font size from there. Okay, did I do okay? All right, let me just take out that font size. So the name is, I like the way the name is big like that. So all we're gonna do is also what we did, we moved this to align to left, and that affected this. So I don't want that to happen. So I'm just gonna give it name, another class of name pose wrapper mobile. All right, so I'm gonna use that to align it so that it does not affect these classes. Okay, all right, so this text is white, and that's because we changed the we changed the color on this. Okay, we changed the color to white, so I'm going to remove that. Okay, so we can get back our colors here, and then I'm going to go to the mobile class and set the color to white. All right, so we have everything on the first tab and the tab content. All right, so what I'm gonna do now, this is actually good because we used dynamic data to insert. See, so even if we change, something changes here, it's gonna update here automatically, so we can safely go back here, all right, to the person group, and only this, the name and position, and we can set it to display none here. Okay, but we want it to display here. So okay, so it's displaying here, it's displaying everywhere except here. Now for this one, I'm gonna select that, and then I'm gonna go to all devices, layout, and set it to display none, and then I'm gonna come all the way here and set it to okay, yeah, so it displays flex there, so it displays none on all other breakpoints, but for the last breakpoint it displays here. So I want to repeat the same thing to all of this. So I'm gonna go to this, and I want it to display for now, okay, the name and position. Okay, I want it to display for now so that we can duplicate this to the next tab content. So I'm gonna select this, okay, select the parent for Annie's court. All right, and I'm going to, then what I'm gonna do is I'm trying to figure out what should I do. Should I just duplicate this, or should I duplicate the one we already set up? But then if we do that, we have to go back and start applying the dynamic data for person 2. So yeah, I think that is easier than, you know, beginning to apply classes. So I'm just going to go to tab content. All right, so let's collapse everything and go to the tab content. So we have this here, okay, and then so I want to duplicate this and move it here. So we have that, okay. So I want to change this to, I want to insert that data, you know, advanced custom field person 2 name, okay, and then do the same here, insert data, advanced custom field person 2 position. Now if you did not see the first part of this, you know, so try and do so that you understand how we got all these advanced custom fields in. Okay, so we have that. I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna duplicate this, and then I'm gonna move it into this. Okay, that is for the third one, for this. Okay, and then I'm just gonna do the same thing, insert data, person 3 name, and then the same for the position, person 3 position. All right, and then we'll do the same thing, just going to duplicate that and then move it all the way here. All right, so the last one, so do the same thing, insert person 4 name, and then we go for this, person 4 position. All right, so we're done. Okay, so and then we're going to, so I want to delete this, you know, name and position group. Okay, not delete per se, but I want to set it to display none. All right, so it's displaying none right now, but on the all devices it's showing, and the other one is not showing because we use classes, so everything is applied, you know, automatically. All right, so the next thing I want to do is, instead of setting this to be 50%, okay, I'm going to set it to be 25%. So we have all this, but I don't want it to be this tall, so I have to figure out where is that, you know, that height coming from. Is it from here? No, so it's from here. So it means we have some sort of, you know, spacing. So I'm going to just take the padding to 0 first of all, and I think that should do. So I'm going to return that to 8, okay, and maybe the bottom 8. So let's leave the bottom at 0. Okay, so so yeah, so we have that. Okay, so I'm going to now, all right, so this works. So I'm going to save it and refresh this page. So you see we have something, you know, very compact. So if you come here and you know, on the phone, and then you click here, at least we have up to this point, you can see everything. So you can just click that. So yeah, so let's try checking it out on responsive. So we have this, okay, and then as we move in, everything's still looking good. Now, one thing with, you know, using this method is that, you know, sometimes you know, you're gonna go you get to the point where you get, you know, in between breakpoints that you don't have settings for, and things are gonna look, you know, funny. But in actual devices, you know, you may not run into this kind of problem. So but if you do, you probably may need to use maybe custom CSS media query to solve that issue. Unfortunately, Oxygen doesn't allow you to add, you know, custom breakpoint. Okay, you can only define the width for the ones already there. So let's keep going. All right, so that breaks. Okay, so this looks good. Okay, so that looks even up to a very small screen size, up to 280. So it looks okay. So let's look at actual devices. So I'm going to start with the iPad Pro. It looks good here. Let's go to the iPad. Portrait looks good. Landscape looks good. Okay, so let's go to the bigger phones, iPhone X. So you see we have that the name comes up here, and let's go to Plus. All right, this still looks okay. iPhone 6 looks good. iPhone 5 looks good. So we have a lot of text here. I think what I would have loved to do is to take this text down some more, maybe reduce the size a little bit, but you know, that is, you know, up to you to decide if you would want it to be smaller. But from a design perspective, I think from the way it was from the very beginning, I think it's okay, because we really had a very big size text here. So I guess we could just leave that, because the emphasis was really on that quote. All right, so I think it's in place. It's okay. So yeah, so that is the conclusion of making a tab element, you know, responsive. All right, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and you learned something from it. So what I'm going to say is this. I'm going to recap by saying that, you know, one of the, you know, the tips I'm going to give you is this. First of all, if we did not label our, you know, our divs properly, it would be really difficult to navigate. Okay, all this, it would be really difficult. So one of the things you have to do is make sure you label, okay, your divs is very important. It's especially when you're working with a lot of content, so labeling them makes it easy for you to be able to find what you're looking for. Then the second thing is, when you want to work with responsive, you want to edit responsive mode, you always have to go back to the original to check what, you know, where you made the changes. Was it on the ID, you know, the original setting? Was it on the ID, for instance? This had a setting on this, you know, name post wrapper. So if you're going to the responsive, you have to, and you needed to make changes, so that you have to make sure you're on the same class. Okay, so you have to be sure you're selecting the same ID or class that, you know, had the settings, you know, on all devices. So so yeah, so that's it. If you have any questions, you can ask in the comment section. If you have any suggestion, and if you know of a better way we could have handled this, you know, instead of creating new new elements, okay, I'm moving them up and, you know, disabling the other ones, you let us know also. We'll be glad to learn from you also. So but I thought this was the approach, you know, I would have taken, you know, and like I said earlier, having something like this, you know, using dynamic data is really good. It's really important. So if you want to make this kind of changes where you have duplicate elements, you know, for different devices, you want to make sure that you're using dynamic data to insert, you know, that content, so that you only have to change it at one place. Because if you're changing it right here, like this one, we could do, let's say, for our community leaders, and then you say, no, you don't want leaders, you want community heads, okay, and then you forgot that, you know, you needed to change that in the mobile, and then in the mobile it still shows leaders. Okay, so that's the drawback of using this method if you're not using custom fields. But for the names and the positions here, we already are using custom fields. So if we make changes to any of this, you know, it's going to automatically show up here. So that is what I want you to keep in mind. So if you like this tutorial, do hit the like button, share with your friends, and hit the notification bell, so that you'll be notified next time I do a tutorial. And I promise you, I'm going to bring you some really interesting tutorial in the future, in the near future, actually. Have a great day.